the I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.
Before we get into it too much, let's just tell everybody, thank you for this, by the way, the CD, but the new album, Henry the Archer, or EP rather, The Garden, out now. Go check it out. Love it. I'm assuming it's just every major normal streaming platform that you get everything everywhere, right?
And the abnormal ones, too.
Yeah. Right on, man. I was thinking about, you've been in the scene here for quite a while, and I was thinking about what was the moment I discovered Henry the Archer.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. I was thinking about it for a couple of days, but it went way back to the Funky Town podcast where you did an acoustic set. You did an acoustic version of, is it Can You Hear Me? Or
Why Can't You
Hear Me? Thank you.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, hell yeah. It was such a fun, first of all, I wish Funky Town podcast was bigger and doing all this big stuff. But like, I love those recordings like that where there's no way to cheat it.
No.
Right? Like it has to be a good
was
performance.
I remember that moment.
Do you?
Yeah, they were like...
Because the video I saw, it looks like you're just tucked away in a closet, and they got like literally crammed lights and cameras in any corner they could to get it done.
Yeah, they were like, play a song, and I'm like, well, this is a rock band. This is not an acoustic band.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joe, one of the guys there, hands me this old beat-up kind of Polar acoustic. Mm-hmm. And I'm like trying to get it in tune for like 10 minutes, it just did a rock song right there in the studio. Yeah, it was fun.
It looked fun.
It was very fun.
Those are like those rare, real moments in music, At least it came off that way.
Yeah.
Because you know how it is. Like, you've put out enough albums now. It's like, it's so easy for that side to feel like a grind.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you just want to write music. You don't necessarily want to be like a business guy promoting music all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at least that is like different enough that it felt like, oh, this is a true rare performance. Like, this is probably the only way that song exists, right? That version of it.
That version of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's on one of the albums.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's
the one where you're all bloody on the face, right?
Yeah.
Which one is that?
That's When Something Means Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so again, it's like the song's great on the record.
Yeah.
I love anytime you get a more unique version like that. Again, like, you can't cheat. And it's one of those where it's like you're watching and you're like, oh, okay, he can actually do it. That's, a relief, which is because that's such a common thing now is people can't do it.
Right.
They can do it in a studio, but they can't do it live.
Right. Yeah, I prefer live.
Yeah.
I prefer performing live over recording in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I'm recording, I feel like I'm giving a piece of myself away there.
Really?
Yeah.
How so? What do you mean?
Yeah, well, especially when it comes to laying down guitar tracks, I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to that. And, and not just like the playing it, but the tone. Yeah. So you play it through, you listen to it back, and you're like, well, just adjust that tone a little bit. Oh, I got to move the mic a little further away. Because especially during those albums, the older albums, I'd record myself. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there at my workstation recording, but then I have, the guitar cabinet in the bathroom or the closet, and then I have to adjust the mic accordingly. And, you do that all before you record, but then when you hear it back in context as a whole, there's still micro adjustments to be done.
Yeah.
So it'll drive you a little bit crazy, especially if you're recording yourself,
That's, so I have a background in audio engineering.
Yeah.
Like, I went to the Collin County program like years and years and years ago, and I don't do it for a living or anything.
Sure.
That program, if it taught me anything, it was how easy it is to think you know a lot about recording and mixing. Sure. And like trick yourself into thinking you know a lot.
Sure, yeah.
And then when you see someone who's got that ear
right.
and that ability, when they can communicate like with a client and really dial it in is such a skill, right?
That's how I feel about the new record.
Yeah.
Working with KCD Oreo.
Oh, you felt like you got there?
I felt like I got there, yeah.
That's
there
cool.
was a lot of friction between us at the beginning because every album before then I had basically full control in recording and full control on how things are laying down and how post-production is going to sound and all that. And he had a different vision for how it was going to sound. And a lot of that comes into the vocals, and I like saturated reverbs and stuff like that. And Casey's more of the dry guy. And I learned a lot of lessons. I learned a lot of things from him.
Can I tell you, I already love this guy that he told you that about vocals.
Yeah. Well, it was like, he wanted to bring the same energy and feel that you get from the live show over to the recording. And, you lose a lot of characteristics with all the reverb. And you lose the intimacy. There's a lot of little subtleties that happens in your voice that dissipate with reverb.
Especially your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And, it took a lot of trust with me and a few sleepless nights to be able to accept that version. And then eventually it grew on me in a way where I wouldn't replace it for anything else. Like, I feel really connected to the songs.
I've always felt like, and like I said, even though I had that audio engineering background, I never like went and worked in a studio or anything. It's like by the time I was done with the program, I realized like I'm probably not. This is not a passion that I have on such a deep level that I'm going to be good at it. You know, like I was glad I went through it, but knowing just that little bit, that's always been one of my biggest gripes about. There's a ton of local bands here, but just about bands in general, and I've always felt like it's an insecurity thing. Like when you hear your own voice raw, you just think, I can't. If it makes a mistake and people hate it, and that reverb just gives you that cushion of, well, it's going to smooth out any little mistake. Is that kind of how you felt about it?
Not
or was
really.
it different?
For me, the reverb, because when we were recording in the studio, we still, we still put my voice through reverb, but it wasn't being laid down. And it's because I feel like I can play. Like I have a lot of falsettos in my music. You know, when I'm singing, I go back and forth between upfront and distinct and falsetto ambiance. And when I hit the falsetto, I feel like that pin back on the reverb really allows me to just kind of play with my voice a little bit, you know?
It's almost like a little security of like, it can, I feel like I know what you're saying, but like when you hit that falsetto, you mean in a way it almost helps it sound a little more dreamy and you can just loosen up, or?
Well, it elongates the tail at the end of what I'm saying, right?
I see.
And then so when it elongates the tail, the next note I'm singing, I can come in a different way than if it was just completely gone.
So it's the dead silence between it.
Yeah, it's that dead silence that it's like, I feel like it's disconnected between lines, especially when you're performing. And when you can connect those lines, you can play more with how those lines are connected.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you basically strip the reverb afterwards and keep it how it is. Oh,
Right.
wow, that's an interesting approach. How did y'all get to that? Because is that something he's done before?
No, I just refuse to lay it down without reverb.
Yeah.
I use a reverb pedal live when I perform.
Yeah, I've seen your setup before. I think the last time I saw you was live was when Mass was still called Mass. Now it's the Cicada, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, I know you have kind of like your own. What's the microphone you like to put on stage with you?
Apex 747. It's a Canadian.
Yeah, and so you run that through reverb also, so you can.
I go from the Apex 747 into my TC Helicon reverb pedal, and then into the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do the sound engineers love or hate you when you do that?
You know, it's weird the time we're in because years ago they used to hate me.
Yeah.
And now they're indifferent. It's because I guess over time a lot more people have implemented the reverb pedal, and a lot more sound engineers that know what they're doing are being employed, you know. Because the biggest issue with the reverb pedal on stage is the feedback loop that you get on stage, you know, so.
And that microphone, it looks, I don't know much about it, but it looks like it runs a little hot too.
I love that.
Yeah.
It gives it
some more chance for reverb, in other words. I mean, not reverb, feedback.
Yeah, it gives it like a natural overdrive.
Yeah.
To the tone of everything. It just sounds like the most beautiful garbage. Yeah.
When did you decide like I'm going to bring my own mic from now on?
Oh, that I've been doing since always.
Really?
I've never not had my own mic.
Really?
Yeah, I used to battle with severe germophobia.
Oh,
and
okay.
I don't know if you've ever played a concert, but if you're playing a concert and you watch the guy before you put the fucking microphone in his mouth and he's like and spitting all over the microphone.
Yeah.
It's like when I sing, my mouth is on the mic or it's away from the mic depending on what I'm doing and how I'm delivering.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be like putting that person's saliva on my lips. So I've always brought my own microphone.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Did you start out with just like a regular, like a Shure or something? Or did you always have that one that you're talking about?
No, I started out with like a regular Shure with a 58 or...
Yeah. Whatever 57s are more the flat ones, the 58s are the round.
Yeah, 57s have a flat top.
Yeah.
Good.
So when did you make the switch of go like, you know, the 58's fine, but this other mic, this is it?
So my drummer, Kevin, he owns a guitar cable company. Well, not just guitars, but audio cable company, and he makes his own ribbon microphones and everything. He does pretty good with it, and he distributes some of those microphones. And one day I came to rehearsal. He's like, "Try this one out," and I did. I never went back.
Man, just that easy.
Yeah, it was that easy. I mean, I fell in love with it. I love the feel of it on my lips, you know, and I love the shape of it and the size of it. It's almost sexual in a way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like intimate. It's like almost like, you know, it's like, you know.
Yeah.
Because it comes up like this.
It's a friend.
It's a friend.
Yeah.
I've got like 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had
just
4
in
of
case.
them.
Do you bring? Are you like I'm a crazy person. Like I need a backup of a backup.
Redundancy.
Yeah. So do you bring the 2 or 3 with you when you play?
I have redundancy for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my main one has a giant dent in it. I was at rehearsal and so my first one it got rusted out right around here, and it was not returning. And so he gave me another one, and about 40 seconds after he gave it to me, I'm connecting it to the mic stand, and it just falls over, slams into the ground, and now there's been this huge dent in it, in the front of it, like since it was brand new, and I'm just like...
And it sounds like you're the type of guy who can't stop looking at that dent
I can't stop looking at that dent, man. Even to this day, I was looking at it the other day, I'm like... Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's one of those things when I first saw it, I get really into artists of any kind that really focus on how they like to present themselves.
Yeah.
Right? I think whatever that is for you, I think it's good to focus on that and just say, I like to be presented this way, you know, because that's one of the few things you can be in control of at a venue.
It's your brand.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I remember people trying to do something with a lead mic, but the microphones just kind of weren't there yet, where like those ones that looked like they were the old school Elvis mic, but they were really just kind of
I think those are Shure, like, don't quote me on this, 550s or something like that.
And they I'm sure they have their place, but it just wasn't it.
They don't have their place. They really don't have their place.
You know what I mean? They're just not great. And
I have one.
Yeah.
Somebody gave me one like maybe 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And I tried it out, and first of all, that has got to be one of the heaviest microphones I've ever held.
Oh, really?
It's all just solid steel, and it's just got an on and off switch on the front, which I'm not a fan of mics with a switch.
In my opinion, it's usually a bad sign.
It's a bad sign.
If it's got a switch, it's not likely to be good.
Right.
But it could be, but probably not.
Not this one.
Those are usually the ones that come with like the Walmart karaoke thing you bought.
Those are almost better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I just remember that was one of the things that caught my eye. I was like, he's doing this. He's bringing, but I had no idea what the mic was. And then I remember watching you guys set up thinking, ooh, this might be a big mistake, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, because I mean, you know, anytime you see somebody setting up their own mic on stage, you know, like I have been in bands before, and it's like the sound engineers, it's like, are they going to treat this well? Are you going to now maybe have bad sound in the room because the guy thinks you have an ego and you're bringing your own mic?
I don't even think like that.
I do. I think like that because you hear people talk about like these weird rules when you go into venues and things.
Well, think about it like this. I mean, 9 out of 10 harmonica players bring a harmonica microphone.
That's a great point.
You know?
Yeah, I had never thought of that.
Blasting the harmonica into a 58 or a 57, it's going to sound not right. Mm-hmm. You know? So, I mean, my voice is an instrument. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, you don't show up to a venue and the venue have guitar pickups.
Yeah.
That would be weird.
Yeah.
Why is it so weird that you bring your own microphone?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
You know, the microphone is adding an element and a texture and a tone, and at this point, people are expecting to hear it. If I sang through a 57, it wouldn't sound the same. And like I said, there's an intimacy and a relationship I built with that microphone over time, and the way that it's shaped, and the fact that I can like rest my face on it while I'm singing, it brings out feelings, you know, because I usually sing with my eyes closed. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I get that 100%. There's a few objects, like you can't see it on the video, but like this little 6-bulb light here. Yeah. I got that a super long time ago. It's nothing. It's not going to make or break anything. Right. But anytime I do projects, I just like having it around.
Right.
And it's been a part of a lot of projects. Yeah. Right. Like I got to do stuff with Joe out at his studio in Fort Worth.
We did.
We did a little like a video series, and it was never like I never make it the main focus. I just like it tucked in a corner somewhere.
Sure.
And something to me, whether it's true or not, like I'm not a very like hippy dippy person, but I just feel like it's soaked up the energy of all these good times, and these fun projects.
There's nothing wrong with being hippy dippy.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm a very spiritual person.
Well, I'm just not. Like in some aspects I am, and that's one of them where I think, something about this, I feel like it's been a part of all these good moments, and we're going to bring it to other moments that I want to be good.
Sure.
Right? And,
sure.
And so I totally get that about the microphone.
Yeah.
That it is a part of you on stage. And when you think, like you said, it's the number one it's the number one thing for you as a vocalist outside of your ability to sing. Right. It controls so much of your sound. Right. But the average singer really doesn't know much about a microphone.
Yeah, I always look at it, I bring it back to the pickup thing. I mean, like when you look at a bass player, you like, oh, he thinks he's so cool because he swapped his pickups out. No, that dude swapped his pickups out because it enhances the tone of what he's performing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. I didn't realize you were so picky, but it makes sense listening to these albums now.
Everybody that knows me knows I'm picky.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I'm late to it.
Yeah.
Well, I will say the microphone makes a lot more sense now when you consider the dynamics of your vocals. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the things that's always kind of drawn me to your performances are you are not afraid to take risk with it in a very positive way. Yeah, like I don't catch you trying to sing like anyone. I catch you trying to sing like yourself.
Right, 100%. Yeah.
Do you remember how you kind of found your voice?
Yeah, I guess through depression.
Depression?
Yeah, I originally I was born and raised in Jersey. Okay. And I was when I was in high school, I started my first band, punk rock band. And when you're a kid, you're like you really are looking up to these bands that you like. Like I was really into punk rock, and I'm looking up to these bands, and punk rock band back in the day, you could probably swap the singers out, and they'd all sound the same. And so, I was trying to deliver in my punk band way the punk band style of singing, and then there was the screamo phase, and I was a pretty hardcore screamer, and back in the day with the screamo bands, they'd go like super high and stuff, and that wasn't really my thing. And so I was in a band, and the lead guitar player is like, you got to sing this way because that's the style of the music. And I'm like, in my head, I started getting real depressed about it because I'm like, well, I can't sing that way. I can't sing that way. And, I was at home during this time writing my own music, which is similar to the music I play now, my natural voice, just putting my own feelings, how I feel. I don't think how I sing, I just sing how I feel. And, and I didn't really get a lot of love and appreciation for that. Maybe it's because I boxed it up and didn't show anybody. But there was a level of expectation in those bands where you had to sing a certain way. And it drove me into the ground to where it was like the band was falling apart because the two guitar players who were cousins, they're like, oh, Henry can't sing this way, so, I think we need to find a new lead singer. But my drummer and my bass player were like, well, no, fuck you guys. Like, we're sticking with Henry. And so that divided the band. The band fell apart. And then I was just like so discouraged. I left music and all that. And then I went to college for a bit, and I took creative writing was my passion. And so I took a bunch of creative writing classes, and I started writing per assignment an autobiography, which was titled Henry the Archer, where the name comes from. And it was about basically a son of a Mason who just like really wanted to be an archer, like a king's archer. That's what he wanted to do. And, the story was, to sum it up, all about being true to yourself, And then so when I was wrapping up with school and all that stuff, I was like really vibing. I'm like, let me get back to music. Only this time I'm going to take an acoustic guitar and I'm going to do it my way. I don't need to satisfy anybody else but myself. So I'm just going to sing how I feel instead of like acclimating to somebody else's ideologies. And so I did that, and I have my own sound. And, then I moved to Fort Worth, Texas years later, and I was performing like that in a club called The Grotto. I don't know if you've ever
I know The
been
Grotto.
there. Yeah. So there was somebody there who passed away a couple of years ago, rest their soul. Anyway, he saw me at the grotto, and he posted a video of me online and said, this dude just moved here, and he needs a band immediately. I didn't tell him I needed a band. I wasn't looking for a band. I was just going out on a whatever night of the week it was, just performing my tunes. And maybe 2 days later, I get an influx of messages from Kevin, my current drummer, saying, man, I really love the tunes. I really like what you're doing. Let's get together. And that was the beginning of the story I'm in right now.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
What a great, I can see why you're a little hippy dippy, because things are kind of working out the way they should in a lot of ways. What brought you to Fort Worth?
It wasn't the fact of wanting to go to Fort Worth. It was the fact of wanting to get out of Jersey. So I was in such a desperation to leave there that I was looking for work all over the place, all over the country. I was looking for work, and an opportunity opened up in South Lake, Texas.
Yeah.
And so I jumped on it, and I was looking for a place to live, and I found a home in Fort Worth that was affordable, and so that's where I moved.
Did you know anything about it before you showed up?
No, but, coming from the city and moving down here, everybody that I had talked to in the company I worked for at the time was telling me, and this is all I heard from like 6 different people, and half of them didn't even know each other, you got to watch out for the sneaks. You got to watch out for the sneaks. There's sneaks everywhere down there. And I've been down here, and it's only like a handful of times I've seen snakes.
Yeah.
I
think that's how I feel about Florida.
Yeah.
My wife's like, hey, let's go on like a beach vacation there. And I'm like, I don't want to be anywhere near gators.
Right.
And it's like, it's probably not like that. But
yeah.
yeah, well, that's pretty incredible how that stuff just kind of works. I have started leaning more towards that lately, where in the past with projects and all sorts of stuff, I would be more concerned about controlling, doing things this way, that way. If I can't do it this way, it's probably not worth doing. And, when you try to manipulate it on that level, like you almost never get perfection, right?
Right.
And over the last, I would say probably 5 or 6 years, it's been a real big exercise in kind of backing off that and kind of going with the flow. Like if an opportunity comes, it's like, all right, let's try it. It feels like maybe I don't want to do it, but let's try it. And then it kind of just works out, or it leads you to the next thing. And so I have been working on being more open to that, of just, like for instance, even with the show, it's like if someone reaches out to you, maybe don't overanalyze it. It's like, check out their stuff, bring them on. Like if it's somebody you don't already know,
Sure.
And see where that goes.
Right.
And it's been working out really well. So I do enjoy that.
I think the percentage of happiness for me, and I came up with this like maybe 8 years ago, is 80%. If you're 80% happy with something, you're pretty much 100%.
Yeah.
Because especially if you record, like there'll never be a point where you're satisfied, because it's a feeling, and feelings ebb and flow like waves. And so even when you're listening to something and you're laying it down in that moment, and you're like, that was the greatest take, 15 minutes later, you're not going to feel that way. So if 15 minutes later you feel 80% that way, that's 100%.
That's a great way to approach it. I've been phrasing it in a more poor way, though, which is just, you'll never make it perfect, right? And it's like, I think you can strive for that perfection.
Yeah, but
then
imperfect is perfect too.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of where I've started landing. It's like any project I've got to work on, rather than going, I wish we could have changed that thing, just going, no, that was the thing for that moment. Yeah. You wouldn't have been able to change it.
The moment.
Yeah, it's just let it be the representation of that, and move on to the next thing.
100%. Yeah, I've learned that lesson a few times recently.
It's hard to accept it, though.
Especially with the new album in the studio, because, Casey would be like, because I'd be in there and I'd track a vocal, and I'd be like, in my head during that vocal, I had another take. And I knew while I was laying down that take that when I came, as I'm singing, I'm having these thoughts like, I'm gonna nail that when I come back again. I know exactly what I'm gonna do. And we'd be done with the take. He's like, that's it. That's gold right there.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, dude, I got it in me. Trust me. He's
I'm
like,
the client. Let me do another one.
He's like, no. He's like, no, we captured exactly what we came to do. This is exactly it. And in my head, I'm like, does he care as much as I do?
Yeah.
But he does.
Does he have a barbecue he's trying to get to right now?
Yeah, exactly. But he did, because You know, he's very good at finding that feeling, you know, even when you don't notice that you have that feeling because you feel like you didn't display it perfectly. He's taught me many lessons in that, you know, especially feelings aren't perfect.
Yeah.
And that's what people connect to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Going back to that YouTube video we were talking about. By the way, I think people should go check it out. I think at this point, it still has a very low view number, and it's an old video, and it's like...
All my videos have low view numbers.
Well, it's this hidden little gem, again, of that time of you, but that's what it is. It's like, there's no such thing as like a flawless live performance, right? And I think that's why so many of those live albums or those live recordings connect, is because, you know, people do realize, like, making music... and performing it are two different things. And performing music really well, like, it's difficult. It's really difficult.
Right.
And for people who've never been on a stage, it's like all the little oddities that you would never think of if you don't perform, of like, can I even hear the bass player right now?
Right.
You know what I mean? Am I hearing
the
one music thing. The way when we rehearse in a room and we can do that? It's like, so now you're trying to replicate something and you can't even hear it how you normally practice.
Right.
So now it opens the door for all these mistakes and all these things.
Sure.
And then it comes down to, you know, how much do you guys in the band trust each other? You know, when it's going poorly, that, like, I think we're all on the same page.
100%.
Right? And so now there's all these variables that can just really make a horrible performance.
Right.
If you can't nail them. And so then when you think about that and you watch someone perform live and there's like a little thing off, you're like, man, that's just live music. Like, that's just awesome. And then on the flip side, then when you do find somebody and they just nail it and it is perfect, you're just like, that's something so special. You know,
I'm also like, that person has no life.
But, you know, you've been on enough stages, you've performed enough.
Many
Sometimes
times,
it just sinks and you can't explain why that show was so phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, it's 50% the band and it's 50% the energy of the crowd. And it's a relationship between the two, whether there's 3 people there or 300 people there. You know, it's always the same. It's a relationship, and you're playing according to the energy you're fed, and the crowd is reciprocating according to the energy that they're fed, and that's a show, and that's what creates that memory and that energy and what you come home with and all the sweat dripping down. That's what it is right there.
Yeah, I think a lot about, honestly, I got very frustrated with your album.
Oh, boy, of course.
No. It just, I live here in Dallas, right? And I consider myself a fan of, like, DFW things. Anything surrounding this area, I like to try to check it out. But it made me realize that we have some heavy hitters like yourself in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
There are some people that have some phenomenal records coming out of that town.
Well, I'll tell you right now.
That are getting almost no recognition for it.
Right.
It's insane.
Right.
When you think of in different genres, it's not one thing.
No.
But, you know, like more recently, it's like, so we've got your album, Mean Motor Scooter, I really love. Hayden Miller put out a great album. And then you've got people like Matt Tedder on the country side, Garrett Owen.
I'm waiting for you to name somebody.
Oh, don't do that to me. I don't know all the Fort Worth people in and out.
Well, you should know this one.
Tell me.
I'm going to be pretty disappointed if you don't.
Oh.
I'll give you 2 more.
Those are all the ones that are in my head right now.
Oh, man.
Go ahead, tell me.
Out of here.
You can embarrass me. Go ahead.
I'm leaving. So I was Denver Williams.
Oh, yes. What is his band that he was in, though?
He was in
Chillamundo
and Chingalotus.
Okay, no, I am familiar with him. Love him.
But Denver Williams.
Oh, okay.
Denver Williams, his new album that's coming out. I was lucky enough to hear it because he's a buddy of mine. And let me tell you, the first sentence out of my mouth was, "Listen, bro, do not release that around the time my album comes out, please," because he's super gifted, and he's just one of the most salt of the earth, nicest people you'll ever meet. And the quality of the sound, the writing is just second to none. And he's out of Fort Worth.
I don't think I've ever heard his solo stuff then. I think I've heard him with bands, and then I've heard...
Denver Williams is his band. It's just named after him.
Oh, okay. Then I'm just way off base and haven't heard any of it. So
that's okay.
But I have heard, like I said, I did a lot of work with Joe, and Joe spoke very highly of him.
Of course, it's hard not to.
Yeah. So, all right, so that one's coming out, huh?
Oh, it's coming out soon.
Well, to my point then, it's like these people who are very, very talented are for some reason flying under the radar, and I can't figure out what it is about either Fort Worth or us as DFW that we're not propping these bands up and getting them up to those next levels.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I really struggle to think about it. And like me and Sammy from Mean Motor Scooter were kind of talking about it. And it feels like it's so easy because you've been in the scene long enough. It feels like it's so easy to just be like, oh, it's changing or the pandemic killed it. And it's like, I don't think it's that. There's just something in my mind that's missing that, it's the step between the steps that we're just lacking for some reason. Because to have all this talent, and then we have the studios that are able to record it and capture it.
Right.
It's like when I hear some of these records, they feel like they have these just epic moments.
Sure.
You put them on a big stage, like I'm thinking of Dallas venues, but like Granada, House of Blues,
right.
or like maybe just an incredible festival. But I'm thinking it's like the thought of hearing some of your songs on a stage when it's, the sun's down, but there's still that like orange glow of the sky.
Yeah.
But you can get all the effects of, a good lighting person, good sound person.
Right.
And you can put on the live show in the epic way that the record presents it.
Right.
And just how many people would have those moments, right? Because it's not just like the heavy hitting rock songs. It's like, the opening track Violent. It's like, that's a great rock song, right?
Right.
But it's the moments, what is it? I'm sorry. People aren't the place. People aren't a place.
People make a place.
People make a place. Thank you. People make a place. The total opposite of what the title means. But but imagining that song, right? You've gone through 7 or 8 heavy hitting songs,
sure.
crowd type, and then we just get to bring it down for a moment,
right.
At the Verizon Theater or the Grand Prairie Theater, whatever that is
right.
over there. And the thought of you getting to perform that song in that intimate setting in front of 5,000 or 6,000 people
right.
while they're just locked in.
Right. That's going to happen.
That's what I'm saying. But and it's like we're missing something because the way I just described that for you and those other artists I was talking about, I feel like we're not doing something as the community to help get those moments going. And I know people are trying hard.
Right.
I'm not saying for lack of effort. We're just missing something. And I think we got a couple people who hopefully get a spark to go like, oh shit, I can do that. I can make this happen.
Right.
So that you guys aren't just local regional acts, that you're putting on those shows that you deserve to be able to put on.
Right.
Right.
Well, music's a business, and I don't get butthurt about that, man. We got a lot of good people in Fort Worth too. A couple things about what you said, like, there's Near South Side in Fort Worth, and they put on Arts Goggle, and their whole goal is to bring unknown, unheard artists to a main big stage and perform at a festival, just like Friday on the Green. Fort Worth is doing things, but people have to come out. People have to come out, and also places like the Granada Theater, like you had mentioned, and a couple other big venues. They're about butts and seats, and if the band, being a badass band is one thing. Anybody on this planet can be a badass band. They just have to dedicate themselves and practice. But the other part of that is it's a business. You have to represent yourself. You have to invest in yourself. You have to build a brand and build an image. And if you're not doing that, if you're not investing in yourself and seeing it as a business, how on earth could you expect anybody else to invest in you if you're not investing in yourself?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the bottom line.
Well, what do you think it is? Because you sound like you know these things. So what do you think is the roadblock for you or for any band of getting those butts and seats? Where you can make it not an issue that if I put on a tour,
sure.
The fans are there now. We've found them.
Well, from a marketing perspective, I don't know if you know this, but it costs about $1 million per city to properly market an artist. And record labels own all of that. They own all of the money. And so people like me or people like the other bands you'd mentioned, they do have that opportunity, but the right person that represents that right label has to see them or they have to come across them. But like I do, everybody's got a cousin in a band, right? And everybody knows somebody, and everybody gets a chance. The only way to really circumvent that whole process is to not give a fuck about that process. Just focus on you, be the best possible version of you can be, kick ass, whether you're playing in front of 2 people or 200 people, and just if that person shows up or when they show up, you're prepared for it. Luck is being prepared for the opportunity when it comes. It's not just shit that happens out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I don't ever err on the side of negativity. I err on the side of, time's not linear. Things happen when they're meant to happen, whether they're meant to happen or not meant to happen, because I'm grateful to be here in this interview with you, that's an opportunity maybe a lot of other people wouldn't have, right? There's different tiers of opportunities. And so I like to believe that you came across me because of my hard work.
It's a great approach. And it's factual. It's like you'd always been on my radar, and then there's just this wave of noise, right, of all this stuff coming out these days with social media.
Sure.
And I tell a lot of people that, like some of the people who are like, how do you, pick your guests and those things? I was like, well, it's called I'm a fan of, so it's people that I like. That's the first rule.
Sure.
It's like I have to enjoy it.
Well, you like me.
Yeah, man.
That's
I've
one
liked
down.
it for a long time.
One down.
You know what was weird is, well, I was going to say, literally sometimes it's just people reaching out and me going like, oh my gosh, how have I not reached out to this person yet? This totally slipped my mind,
Right.
Because, it's like everybody's got their life and other things going on during every day.
Sure.
But no, we were literally just in Good Records the other day in Dallas, and just flip one of those lazy days where you just get to flip through, and wife's over looking at stuff, and I'm just flipping through stuff, and then I came across the I'm so bad with names. I'm sorry. What's the album? What's the Wi-Fi album?
Oh, that's
Orange and Black.
Zero is a number.
Zero's a number. Yeah. And that was in there. I was like, oh yeah. And
the
then
vinyl?
The vinyl's in there. Yeah, at Good Records.
How did I get there? I didn't bring any copies there.
Somebody put one
right,
there. Somebody
works.
put one there because it's the one that's orange and the writing's in black.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I hadn't thought about this in a minute, you know. And then I think it was like a week or two after that, you messaged me and were like, we got the EP coming out. And I was like, there it is. That's what I was saying about just kind of letting things flow. And it's like, yeah, you're right. Sometimes it happens when it needs to happen.
Right.
It's strange. I'm learning to accept more of that because you don't want to think that there are so many things out of your control all the time, but it's all out of your control mostly.
You know something really cool?
Huh.
Off that album, the song Pillow People, right? There's a couple songs on that album people really love, and it blows my mind because they're the few songs that we never play. I have a catalog of songs that are recorded, and I have a catalog of songs I perform live. And the ones that I perform live are lacking a few of the people's favorite songs. Like the most requested song from everybody to perform live is Sunday Samurai.
Okay.
Off the Zero's a Number, and we don't play it live. I don't know why. But the coolest thing that happened recently is we're booked to perform a wedding on October 31st, Halloween in 2025.
Oh, wow.
Because husband and wife, their couple song is Pillow People. And they booked the band to go perform this wedding. And honestly, playing festivals and venues that, you aspire to play one day, I've booked all those, and we're playing them or have played them. But this wedding I'm looking forward to because it's got true, real value and meaning. Because at the end of the day, playing a show, money isn't shit, really. It's just paper with faces on it. But, like, to touch somebody else, to sit there and write a song alone in your room for whatever you're feeling, and then you lay it down, and then somebody else connects to it in an almost more powerful way than you connected to it. It's just unreal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if the rest of the people at that wedding don't. The two right there, that's a big moment for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about music, right?
It's
you just never know what's going to reach somebody a certain way.
Well, I was laying in bed like maybe about 6-7 weeks ago, and no, longer than that, maybe 2.5, 3 months ago, and it's like 1:30 in the morning, maybe later. I had a bunch of sleepless nights for a period, and I get an Instagram you were tagged in, and I go to that, and I'm laying there and I'm looking at it, and somebody had posted that they were in Tokyo, Japan, at a bar, and the bar was playing Henry the Archer.
Oh, wow.
And it was, I don't remember what song it was, but the album cover was on the TV screen above the bar. Zero's a Number, and their post was like, holy, they're playing Henry the Archer in Tokyo, and I was like, that's my dream, because that's like the one place I want to go is Japan.
Oh yeah,
that's like
I would love to go to the future also.
Yes, yes, that's the one place I want to go. So I felt like a little piece of me was there.
Yeah,
and it was just like amazing. Did I make a bunch of money? No. Did I make 1 million fans? No. But the feeling I got from that supersedes both those things. You know.
Yeah, man, you got a good way of looking at it. Your way is probably less frustrating than my way of looking at it. Because I think just not being a performer anymore, I think about it more of like, I just want these people to get what they deserve.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? And
life,
I know that's subjective, but
life is a blessing, and it's limited. It's a limited resource, and we can't waste our time getting frustrated over things we just can't control. You know what I mean? We can't control those things, you know? Like, I let all that go years ago when I decided to sing like myself and not meet some sort of expectation, you know? And look what that's given me. It's given me a sense of peace and freedom and appreciation and gratefulness for all these other things that I might have overlooked because I'm so hyper-focused on this is what I want, right?
Yeah.
The universe will give me exactly what I need.
Yeah. What do you think it is about the $1 million per area these labels are investing?
What do I think of it? Well, it's just promotion.
Yeah, but like how? What's so different that $1 million will do for you?
Well, think about it as small as like a social media campaign, right? You can pump in probably $100 to a social media campaign, and that'll give you probably between 4,000 and 12,000 views. Say you say, okay, 7 days, I want to run a social media campaign. Here's my budget. I got $100. That'll give you 10,000 on average people that see it in their feed. But if you're putting 200,000 into that, not $100, right? You get prioritization from the company, and you're getting in front of hundreds of thousands of people.
Right.
Right. How does the local artist compete with that? You don't really compete with that. That's just it. We live in that world where money rules everything.
Still doing that.
You know, so I believe that if you write a song that's good enough, and by good enough I mean true and honest and real, and you're not trying to write a song to meet an expectation, but you're being real, right? Then that's what people connect to. And when people connect to something that's real to them and it makes them feel something, they listen to it again and again until they own it, right? And what happens when somebody finds something that they own and they feel beautiful? What do? They share it organically. There's no money involved. And then that person connects to it. And then that person connects to it. And then they put it on at a party. Then all those people connect to it. Then everybody's Shazamming it, right? That's growth. That's the growth I'm looking for. Yeah.
I mean, do you think that growth is very obtainable still?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I think about it, you know, because I wonder when someone dumps, because let's say you go the smaller route, right? You dumped enough money into your ad campaign to get, 10,000 views.
Sure.
I immediately get a little more pessimistic, like, okay, that 10,000 views, is that like one person who saw it 30 times and didn't care about it?
No, it actually...
Or is it totally separate?
So are
they just throwing it to any random person? Or I know you can set your parameters.
You set your parameters. You can break it down between their interests. But then you got to hope that person on Facebook or Instagram set their interests, right? And who does that?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
But algorithmically, they kind of know their interests. And so, I don't really care about any of that stuff.
Do you like to do ad campaigns, or you just said no?
Every once in a while I will. Like for the album I did.
Yeah.
I set an ad campaign for like 7 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to put it out there.
Did you like doing that in hindsight?
Well, you have to do it.
Yeah, but in hindsight, now that you've done it, the album's out, do you feel like it was beneficial, or it's kind of like going through the motions of doing it?
I mean, to be honest with you, even if one person heard it that way, I'm happy.
I hear you.
I don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want you to care and obsess.
Yeah.
I just want, maybe I'm just dreaming that we get a couple people here locally who just have wealth from some other means, and are like, you know what? I'm going to start a label. I'm going to get these people.
Sure.
I'm going to do these things for them. And it's not about the money. It's what we keep talking about. It's like, I have money that I can burn, and I just want their music to be more popular and heard by other people.
Right. And those people are out there. Those people are out
I'm
there.
hoping they're coming out soon.
Well, they're out there. They're just focused on other people that deserve that.
That's true.
You
You have a much nicer way of looking at things.
Well, that's a realistic way of looking at things.
Yeah, I know. But sometimes I just don't like to accept that,
It's okay.
I think you're correct, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's, I don't know. I mean, if you could do one thing right now that would help, like if you could have one thing done for you with this record that would help you significantly on the business side of it, what do you think that would be?
I think putting either The Garden, that song, The Garden, which is my favorite song on the album, I think having that in a movie.
Ooh.
I think having that in a movie or a TV show or a commercial would be game over.
Yeah, that is kind of the move for a lot of people, isn't it?
Sure. Licensing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love thinking about music, for movies.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I
do.
love attaching those scenes.
Yeah.
I got to do this really fun thing recently because I work, with musicians and comics on this podcast.
Yeah, I know.
And one of the comics trusted me to record a comedy special for him.
Sure.
This guy, Lawrence Rosales. And I not that it's easy, but like the actual part on stage when you're doing comedy, that's a pretty standard way of recording things, right?
Sure.
There's not a whole lot going on. It's a person with a microphone, pick the angles that you really like and what's within your budget. But the one place I had freedom was like the intro.
Yeah.
Where whatever that is before he actually starts telling jokes.
Right.
And thankfully these comics, they have a similar artist mindset. The good ones like to think about how they present themselves. And this guy had a real dark past recently, like rough childhood, rough upbringing, and then a bunch of mistakes that were all his own, and he owns them.
Right.
But all of his material in this block that he was releasing was about that. So it was about him, like getting divorced because of his meth addiction and his anger issues.
Sure.
All these things, the rock bottom story that a lot of people go through. Now he's been cleaned up for like a year or two, and he's doing much better, and he's building those relationships back with his ex because they have a child together.
Sure.
And then a lot of it was about like his mom's, all the anger and rage he might have with his mom because how he's raised. Like she was a single mom. She had her own drug addictions. She went to prison for a little while. But it was all kind of rooted in love.
Yeah.
Like kind of accepting people for flaws. Like I still love her. She's my mom. But it was telling the crazy stuff about being at home with a cocaine addicted mother who has no money. And, and so anyway, he had a lot of input about like, I want it to feel this way and feel that way. And it kind of all was like maybe revolving around still feeling like a loser, basically.
Sure.
Even though good things are coming, it's just like just kind of feeling like you're on an island and you're alone. So then it gave me that creative license of like, okay, we can try to film that. We can try to make something more artistic just for this front comedy special. And so rather than making this like happy intro, like, all right, we're about to have laughs, we kind of made like a more dark intro.
Yeah.
And Brave Little Hal was able to give me a song that worked for it. And it's not an upbeat song. It is a slow, like, why are we trying to depress people before we watch a comedy special?
Yeah.
But I loved it. I felt like it said everything that we were trying to say in a minute and a half before this darker comedy started.
Sure.
And so now I think more and more about like movie scenes or little things like that we have the perfect catalog of music out here right now with all these DFW musicians that could be contributing to those. And a lot of the folks around here sound so unique compared to a lot of the things that are getting those spots.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like maybe instead of a phenomenal radio DJ these days, we have like a phenomenal video editor who's just picking the right songs of the right artists that nobody knows and just making that moment,
Right.
But yeah, just the blending of
And they're out there, man.
picture and sound. I know.
They're out there.
It's just there's so much of it, and then it feels like there's so much and so little at the same time.
There is.
Yeah,
There is.
you know. So the Garden, you think that could get thrown in something like that, huh?
Oh, it will.
Yeah. What did you say when you messaged me? You're like manifesting. It's like hell yeah,
Yeah. Well.
hell yeah.
Yeah. It's your universe.
Hey, man, if I make another video and it's perfect for it, we'll hit you up about it for sure.
Absolutely. Feel free to use it.
There's something about, like, Quentin Tarantino's always been great at that, right?
Yeah.
Picking the right song, not the popular song.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you remember the first time you saw something like that grabbed you in film?
All the time.
What do you think of, though?
Like,
What's something that you go to?
What do you mean?
Like, you ever hear a song now and you think more about the movie?
No.
Like Reservoir Dogs.
No.
Have you ever watched that?
Of course, multiple times.
Yeah, so the scene where he cuts off the ear?
Yeah.
Do you remember the song playing?
No.
Oh, okay. It's
Dude, my memory. You're talking the one guy. Yeah, don't rely on my memory.
Okay, fair enough. No, it's the well, I don't know what I'm doing tonight.
Oh yeah.
And he's just dancing with a switchblade, just ready to hack that ear off.
Of course, yeah. But when I hear that song, I don't think of that scene.
I immediately think of that scene now. Yeah.
Well.
And then there was another great scene in it's another Quentin Tarantino film. I just feel like he does it really well. But where one of the women, it's the one with Kurt Russell. I don't know how familiar you are with this films. They filmed it down in Austin. Kurt Russell is a stuntman driver, stuntman Mike, but he's also a serial killer. And so he'll
remember.
Okay, anyway, so he'll be at this little bar, and there's like a good jukebox there, and the one of the girls that he's like stalking, like, because he's friendly at first, right, and they're all cool, and she ends up doing a striptease because she lost a bet, and it's to this one song, which at the time was like a more obscure song. I think it's by a band called the Toasters, and it was like he wore a red bandana. Dun-dun-dun. In a honky tonk down in Mexico. But it's like old, obscure, but it's like the perfect song for that.
Yeah.
So I can't hear that without thinking about it. That was even one of the songs we like requested when we got married. We're like, this has to be at some point in the reception.
Sure.
We got to play this one. And when it comes on, all the people are looking like, the fuck is this song?
Right. Right.
But my wife and I are just losing it, you know?
Right.
But yeah, I connect a lot of music and movies together now.
Yeah.
So your memory's bad?
It just depends what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, if you're interested in it.
Yeah.
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 What's one of your favorite memories of being in this band so far?
Geez, one of my favorite memories of being in this band.
There's got to be something that stands out after these years.
You know, honestly, all the lows stand out more than the highs.
Well, what are those?
You know, there was the time we broke up for a short period, and Kevin had left the band, and we were on tour, and we were in Pennsylvania, and he's like, I'm flying back home later, guys.
No.
Yeah, it was a thing.
Y'all, I'm guessing you're all good now, but
of course, yeah.
What'd you do when you broke up on the road?
How do we respond?
Yeah, did you just come home like it's done, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was our last show.
Okay. Well, that was nice of him. We waited till the end.
Yeah. And so he flew back, and then my bass player, my trombone player, and I were like, well, let's just go to Philadelphia. Tom, our trombone player, has never been there, so let's just go show him around and get some cheesesteaks and not focus on that heartbreak we're going through right now. And then
did you still have one more show to play?
No.
That was it. It was all done. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And then we had one show booked, like, I think a month or two later, and I was scattering to find a drummer to fill in.
Mm-hmm.
Found somebody. Boy, was that a mistake. But then Kevin came back, you know. I mean, true love always comes back. It does.
Well, do you remember what it was that y'all weren't seeing eye to eye on, or what made him want to stop then?
No, we never really hyperanalyzed it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, people go through stuff, and it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That chemistry of the band is such a difficult thing to describe to people, you know? But once it's kind of severed, it's tough.
Well, I don't know. I don't ever look at anything as 100% severed because, you know, there's the physicality of a relationship, but then there's the spirituality of a relationship. And you can't sever the spirituality of a relationship. You just can't, even if you want to. You just got to, like, if something you love is severed from you physically, you're still connected to it spiritually, and that connection can keep you going. And if you really truly love somebody or something or your band, then you're always going to find yourself open to them, and you're going to love them no matter what. Even if they hurt you or your band hurt you, you still love them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a band it's not just a couple of people, they get together and they play music. You know, especially like band practice, right? Like, you don't show up and just drill through the songs and leave for the day. Like, it's therapy. You talk about sci-fi and funny jokes and all the things going on during your week, and like, you vent a little bit, or you give each other a little bit of shit or whatever, and then you play a song, and then you do it in between songs, and you build this bond and this brotherhood and everything, or sisterhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so when that splits, it's like there's a sense of surreal unrealisticness that you're going through. Like, it's just like, whoa, how does your brother disappear? Like, how do you cope with that? And you can't replace it with a musician. You can't replace it with somebody that's a musician, because it takes years to build that chemistry and that brotherhood and that bond, right? It's like when Kevin and I are playing together, he already pre-anticipates everything I'm going to do ahead of time. Like, even if I go on some, like, change what I'm doing freestyle-wise, like, he already knows. He's so in the pocket, and he knows my energy. And, like, we communicate with looks and not words. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very subtle, quick. I can look back, and he knows exactly what's about to happen. Not that we've performed that or practiced it or rehearsed it before. He just knows. We just know. You know, so to lose that and fill it in with somebody that plays the drums, it's not the same.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so when he was gone, I think he realized, you know, what it meant to him.
Mm.
And because the relationship is two ways. And that spiritualness, that connection was always there, not severed. And so when he came back, it wasn't like a, can I come back? It was more like a, I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always a place for him at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to, like, just chemistry, you know, just
chemistry.
mixing and meshing.
Yeah.
And it's like, how many times have we seen in history when people are going to form like a super group of musicians, and it just kind of falls flat real fast? Because it's like, it's not talent, right?
It's like the We Are the World donation song with, like, you know, all those people. Yeah.
Still, though, the We Are the World videos that are out there are some of the best
They really
videos
are,
ever now.
man. Michael Jackson and Kenny Rogers just hitting it up.
Yeah, well, and just watching some people doing really well and other people getting frustrated when others aren't doing it. And there's, 50 award-winning musicians in there.
Sure.
But yeah, there's something to that. There's a couple guys that go solo around here. And, I always wonder, like, would a good band really set them off? You know, if they just connected. And it's not about the musicianship. It's just like seeing eye to eye and they're having a good time.
Right.
Because there's a couple people who, they go to a studio. They're kind of solo, and they go to a studio. They record a great album or something, but they don't have that core band with them to replicate those things.
Sure.
And so it's kind of to your earlier point. It feels like they're just missing that piece.
Well, the piece to connect people is the laid down material, right? It's like you can go out and see a good band, but you can't really connect with it. You can say, "Oh my gosh, that band was awesome." But it's not a feeling when they say that. It's just like they're impressed by the performance. But if you listen to a record, right, and you connect with the record, then you go to see the band, they could kind of be a little shitty. Mm-hmm. But you're like, oh my God, it was so great. It was so great because you're seeing what you connected to live. Yeah. There could be errors all over the board. And that's more special and beautiful than some awesome tight band that you never really connected with to begin with.
It took a while for me to appreciate that. I used to want every concert exactly like an album.
Nah.
You know? It took me a while to realize,
nothing special about that.
I know, but, I felt that way. I mean, for decades, probably. Which is strange because I grew up loving punk rock music also.
Right.
So you would think that's where, like one of my favorite bands ever is NoFX. And their shows are notoriously horrible and nothing like their records.
Right.
And
but they're a good time.
They're a great time. Yeah, they're still one of the bands I love the most. And you know what it took? One of the bands I was in, we followed the Warped Tour for 3 months, just selling records at the gate. Just like we played shows. It was not going well. We were worried we weren't going to make enough money to just keep gas in the tank. And we had these not accidental, but we said like, Mondays and Tuesdays when we're not going to have a good show, we'll try to book our little tour of our shitty clubs and stuff where the Warped Tour is coming through, and maybe we can sell like 5-10 records, get some gas money.
Yeah.
This is when the CDs were still going,
Right.
And we ended up selling a lot of CDs that way just because the volume's there, right?
Right.
So we could hit like a real small percentage number and move quite a bit. And so we had all the money to keep us going, and we're like, well, we're getting more records in hands this way. We should just keep doing this.
Right.
And so we did that for 3 months, but that was one of the tours that NoFX was actually on.
Yeah.
So in the middle of the day when we're like taking a break between people going in the gate and coming out the gate, because we would sell at those 2 times pretty much.
Right.
You'd just be like laying on the top of your van, just relaxing, but you could hear the stuff going on. So I ended up hearing, NoFX like 25 times that summer from the parking lot. And you heard like, oh, they're not sticking to any particular set list. They don't even play one song the same way every time.
Right.
And then I started hearing later on, you'd hear these interviews with the lead singer Fat Mike, where he's talking about like the person who has the most fun is the person who wins at life.
Yeah, that's all.
And he's like,
having fun.
that's what we're doing. He's like, yeah, it's punk rock music. He's like, we're just having fun, and that's
what it's
all
about.
this is.
Right.
And that I think was the catalyst to start going like, yeah, you're right.
Right.
Why do I get all bent out of shape thinking it should be done exactly like this record?
I just want to be clear. When you're asking me about like what's the good time or name something fun or something amazing that happened, it's easier to remember the bad time.
Yeah.
It's because there's only been like maybe 3 bad times. And they like, when you talk about the good time, that's like every time. That's like every practice, every show. Like there was a good time we were playing Arts Goggle, right? And we get off stage and we go over to the merch tent and we sold merch and signed autographs for an hour. I'm telling you, the joy that brought to me and the fact of the frustration I had from needing to go to the bathroom and not being able to leave the merch tent for an hour. But when I look back on that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so awesome. Right?
Yeah.
So awesome. Like a line of people. And it was just so people wanting to take your picture. Like that's beautiful. But that stuff happens all the time. It really does. And it's just like, it's part of it. So like, it's hard to like pinpoint one good time over another good time as like, oh, that was so amazing. Cause I feel like amazing shit's always happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easier to think about like negative stuff sometimes when it's like, cause there's so few negative things. It's like they stand out. It's like, oh, there was that moment,
That's really good to hear. I worry that musicians that do it for a while put out multiple records and don't see like a stereotypical form of success that they get. Like, I would be so concerned that you're more drifting towards the territory of like burnout, jaded, or like, here we go, another show at this venue. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's always my concern when I see people locally doing it for a while.
That's because people locally oversaturate themselves and they don't understand how it works. It's like you can't go and play the same city, whether you're playing a different club. Mm-hmm. You can't play that same city every weekend because you're just going to have the same fans coming out. And your fans may love you, but they also have lives and families and other obligations to get to, right? And they're not going to prioritize your concert over anything. If you're playing every other weekend, they're like, well, I can't make tonight's show. I kind of could, but they're playing next weekend, so I'll just go then. And then next weekend, it's like, well, they're playing next weekend, so I'll just go then. If you want to make yourself a priority, you've got to make yourself a little more scarce,
So I agree with you, but then I wonder about what's the balance then of making sure it's scarce enough that your shows are kind of special and people are like, oh, we got to go see that, but you're also trying to grow, and a big part of growing is playing more shows.
Well, there's more places to go than just your city.
How would you maybe if I was a brand new band talking about this right now, how do you think is a way that you would go about getting lots of playing time without oversaturating your area, but if you don't have a massive budget to, how do you go out?
Have you heard of the open mic?
Yeah.
Well, that's a resource for people, and I'm blessed enough to where I can pull off an open mic or something like that to where I can perform without the band because I play other instruments too. But, there's companies like So Far Sounds, and they are based out of every city pretty much in the United States and the UK. And any artist can go on there and register and say, hey, I want to play this city, this city, this city, this city. Again, if you're not investing in yourself, go cry in your pillow because who cares? It's like if you want to grow, you got to put in the work. You know what I mean? And failure is part of that work. And if you just go out every time expecting to play to hundreds of people, you're in the wrong business, buddy. You're in the wrong business. Because sometimes even the shows, like I've played outside in front of boat tons of people. We played in Austin at Formula One, and Justin Timberlake, Stevie Wonder were the headliners. And we performed on a stage there, and there was thousands of people there. And sure, it's cool to say you did that, but not half as cool as playing the record store in front of 10 people and having that moment, right? It's just not, it's a feeling, you know, and it's just as special to me to play in front of 1,000 people as it is to play in front of 5 or 10 people. It's just as special because my music to me means something to me. I'm not making it to impress people. I'm making it for me. And I know the people standing there watching me, they see me and they connect to me, and that fills my heart. And so if your question is, how does another band do that? Well, then they've got to evaluate why they're doing it in the first place. If they're out there and they're just playing to be popular and cool, in my opinion, go fuck off. That's my opinion. You know, because make room for the people that are true to themselves and like the people that really have that connection in their soul to what they're producing, right?
So when you were talking about like the open mics, for instance, are you saying like if you started right now, right? This is the first Henry the Archer EP I've got together, and I want to go promote it, but like you said, I don't have the budget to like take my band around or something. Are you saying you just like load up in your car with your acoustic or something and go to like another town's open mic and start that way? That's
I've done that so many times.
Yeah,
and like I've gained fans just going and playing open mic in some random city that I've never been to before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always been a huge fan of open mics.
Yeah, they're great.
I just worry after the pandemic, it's harder to find them now.
Well, no.
But
Google.
Yeah.
Google's good.
I know somebody started up a new one recently in Dallas because they're doing it at Sundown at Granada on Mondays, and I've been trying to get out there real bad. I think it's called the Love Mic or something, and it's mixed. You know, it's like musicians and comics. It's a true open mic of like, what is it you like to do?
Right.
Oh, you like to do gymnastic basket weaving? Okay, give it a try.
And when you say bands that don't have a budget, what does that mean? That means that their music's not worth them getting a part-time job to invest in their music? I don't really understand what you mean by budget.
First of all, what I want to say right now is I 100% agree with you.
Right.
100%.
Right.
The problem is I don't get to... For instance, with the comics that I work with, right?
Yeah.
The one comic that I work with, Lawrence.
Yeah.
I was able to have really candid conversations like that.
Sure.
About like, hey, man, this won't make you famous.
Right.
This is not going to do that. This is a thing that you and I can both use to build ourselves in terms of like, we have like a new creative exercise, basically. I get to see, can I put one of these together the way I want to? You get to see, can you put your comedy set together the way you want to?
Sure.
Package it or however. And then now it's a tool, right? Now you get to go out, perform as much as you want as a comic, and now you have a thing that people can go to later, like, oh, I saw this guy on Saturday. Check this thing out, on YouTube that he did.
Yeah.
And we would have conversations about like, it's only going to go as far as your effort.
Right.
There's no magic button, right?
No.
But you start talking to people like that because that band I was in where we were following that Warped Tour stuff around.
Right.
We all got 2 jobs.
Yeah.
We all worked, and they were not good jobs. Like, I'm working at like Dollar General.
Sure. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And they were not like high paying. It was like a lot of work,
right.
Because at the time, where was I working? The first time around, it was Dollar General and something else. I can't remember. And then the second time around, I was working at like Chili's and Starbucks when we decided to fund an album.
Sure.
And any money you can do. And I remember just like trying to save like, I want to say it was like 50% of what I was making I was trying to save. So it's like you have an apartment, but there's nothing in it. Right? Because I'm trying to make an album. I want to make an album. I don't need furniture.
No.
But if a lot of people, if you tell them that, they look at you like you're crazy. Because you're right. It's like, do you want to make the record? Yeah. I bet there's a bunch of places you could get a night job.
Right.
Does it suck working overnight?
Sure.
Yeah, man. But do you want to make a record?
That's like people.
Not a lot of people
like,
make records.
Why do doctors get paid so much? Well, they gave up like 7 to 10 years of their life, and they went into debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then they went to school every day, and they stayed up all night. I mean, there's a sacrifice that comes along with the payoff. And if you're not sacrificing and you just think you're like, but I'm good, well, sure, you're good, man or woman. Of course you're good. But there's a lot of other good people. But those people also invest in themselves. They also are fully committed and believe, like I said before, it's a feeling. It's not an act, right? It's like if the person really believed in themselves, then they wouldn't be having that question. They would be getting that job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, I can't tell you how much I'm glad you said this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when it comes from an active artist, you know, that it lands harder. Because I think it's like, when I say funds to go to an open mic, you know, like if I was thinking, I found out there's an open mic in, Oklahoma City.
Sure.
We're going to go check that out. It's
Right.
driving distance. We can do that. Or Waco or whatever, right? That's one of the first moves is like, I don't have, money to go up there, like get a hotel. I was like, whoa, who said you're getting a hotel?
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
No, we're saving money still.
Right.
But it's like, I bet you can get a little side hustle of some kind to get $100 to get gas money there and back.
Easy peasy.
And, if you're too tired to drive home that night, it's like, find a nice, safe parking lot, sleep in your car that night, come on home.
Right.
Or just something.
Because if you don't want it that much, I promise you somebody else does. And if somebody else does, why would you deserve it over that person?
I think it's just that mentality of, like, I made great art, and great art should resonate, right? People should just gravitate and resonate towards this beautiful thing I made.
But like I said earlier, that's only 50% of it.
Yeah, and you burst their bubble when you're like, hey, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But that's just the prerequisite.
Right.
Like, that's just what you needed to show up to this.
Right.
The rest of it is, do you want to have beautiful art that you created, and that's great, and it's on your shelf, and people that listen to it and know you're great?
Right.
And if that's fine for you, if that sustains you, that's awesome.
Right.
But if you are wanting more and you're not doing anything,
sure.
I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
But if you start speaking like this, the way you are and the way I am right now, like, they're just like, what an ass. And it's like, man, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Do you think it's like as punk rock as NoFX is?
Yeah.
I do remember watching a documentary about them where they loaded up the old station wagon and just went for it.
Right.
They just went.
Right.
And yeah, like it wasn't about the money for them, but it was about like, I want to play shows.
Right.
And this is how you do it.
Right.
And it's like, I hate to tell you, that a genre like punk rock, it's not supposed to be about business. And it's like, well, that's weird that several of them started record labels and made it a business so that they could expose you to more of that music.
Right.
And it's like, so
it is a business.
Yeah, it's like, now you can run that business a lot of different ways, right? You can be ethical, and you don't have to do like 5 album deals that trap an artist and steal their soul. You can do an ethical 1 album deal with a good, reasonable percentage. And then, the flip side of that is now I get scared that a lot of artists can't even trust a label when they get approached.
Right.
Because I think it feels like maybe on all ends from my viewpoint that there's a lot of people who want things to happen, but they're not putting in that effort.
Right.
So even the labels, they're like, yeah, man, if you can get 60,000 followers, let us know. And then if it seems like you're selling out shows and stuff, like hit us up.
Right.
And it's like, wait. So I'm building a fan base. I'm selling out my shows. I'm making my own records. And you want me to reach out to you for what?
Right.
Why would I do that? Like, rather than the label who's like, that's incredible. We got to do something about this.
But it's the same exact thing as when you're going to apply for a job. What happens? You hand in your resume. That's layer one. You hand in your resume. And what are you up against? A whole bunch of other resumes, right? What makes the record business any different, right? It's your musician resume. It's your music resume. And unless you build it, I would not go to a Fortune 500 company and hand them a blank sheet of paper with my name on it and say, here is me, and I expect you to give me all this money and, carve my path for me.
Yeah. Maybe what I'm doing then is romanticizing a time that didn't happen.
Right.
Maybe I'm thinking like,
somebody used to come spot you in a club and go, they're phenomenal.
That still happens.
Yeah,
it still happens.
But in reality, those people were probably doing a lot of the steps you're already talking about.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's twofold. Like I said earlier, luck is being prepared for the moment and the moment happening. When you're prepared and that moment happens, that's luck. And like when you walk into a club and then they see that person, they're like, wow, this is amazing. This is gifted. And then they sit there on their phone and they look you up real quick and it's backed up.
Yeah.
It's backed up because that person, that A&R representative, that's their job, right? So they're not going to, they have to look out for number one, which is them, right? They got a boss to go to. They've got a meeting to go to submit artists for consideration, right? And they don't want to look bad or look like a fool showing up to a meeting saying, I heard this band at a club and they were really awesome. And then their manager in this meeting's like, oh, let me see what you got. Well, they don't have anything online. They're not really playing any concerts right now. They have an okay recording. And then how would that guy look at his job or that woman look at their job? We're all part of the same organic union here. And it's not our job to supersede other people for our selfish desires, and that's what happens. Everybody's being a little bit selfish. And it's like you got to understand that everybody has a place and everybody's trying to feed their families or do something, right? There's a bigger perspective than just you and how cool your music is. It's like help yourself so that other people can help you,
100%. Yeah, I think I'm starting to see it differently now. But talking about like that, A&R guy, do you think, do you think there's a scenario anymore where you find a band who's not doing those things and they still succeed? Or do you think if you give them those opportunities and they're not doing those things, they're likely to fail at it?
Do I think what now?
Sorry, let me try that again. Say I'm in a band.
Sure.
2 bands.
Sure, you're in 2 bands.
We have 2 bands that are pretty identical.
Okay.
One band is doing exactly what you said, right? We're trying to build followers. We're trying to get out and play as much as we can. We've got our website up. We got all these things we want,
Right.
And the other band is equally as talented, and they just haven't figured out how to do those things, right? Let's say they want to do it. They've got drive. They're not missing any drive for that, but they're just not finding the steps, I guess, to figure it out for whatever reason. Do you think that if that A&R guy went after one band versus the other, the one that has done all those things now is definitely more likely to succeed?
There's no question.
Yeah, even like if this band, let's just say they're incredible as a band and somebody else takes that other work on the back end, are they still less likely to succeed?
There's
in your
no
mind?
question. It's a business. It's a business.
But even if somebody held their hand and did it for them.
Say I was the record label, right? What am I wanting from you? Am I wanting your cool music or am I wanting you to make me money? Mm-hmm. And when I look at you and you have followers, I see customers. When I look at you and you have no followers and you're not promoting yourself, I don't see customers. And to me, the customers are the money. So why would I invest in somebody that's not investing in themselves? It doesn't make any sense.
Do you think if their music was that good that you could go, I'll take on the burden of this stuff and we'll get the customers? Or do you think it's really just not likely to happen?
It's not likely to happen, man. There's so many people that are good and talented. Mm-hmm. You're coming from a perspective like, that would be like me saying, I'm the best, I deserve all of this. That's crazy. There's so many people better than me. Like, there's so many talented human beings on the face of the earth. It's my responsibility to love myself and put myself out there. And if somebody wants to support that, that's a blessing. I mean, I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful for this interview we're in right now, right? I can get in a car wreck on the way home and not be here anymore. What am I going to drive home thinking like, oh, that was just one step on my path to my actual objective? No, I'm living my objective right now. Yeah. I'm playing shows. I'm releasing records. People are wearing my T-shirt. That's fucking cool. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm happy. I'm happy as can possibly be.
Yeah. Well, and part of the reason I ask those questions, though, is, I've been fortunate that just doing something like this podcast, it introduces you to all these people. And getting to have an hour, 2-hour conversation with someone, even if I don't see them again for 6 months, you've built this little bit of a relationship. You really do understand each other better, right? Right. And so, again, I'm fortunate that then those people will reach out thinking I have the means to do something for them, whatever that may be. You know, can you try that? You know, we talked about making that record for Brave Little How, and it's like, I enjoyed doing that. I had the means to do it. It was fun. We did it.
Right.
But then they'll put out a record or something, and they're like, you know, what do we got to do to make this? And it's like, I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
But those are the types of questions, you know, and they'll be told, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. And then now they get in that classic artist dilemma of like, are these the things I just want to make music? Are these things you're supposed to do? And it's a recurring narrative from different people who don't talk to each other.
I think you just got to appreciate the process and having the ability and gift to be in the process. I feel blessed. You know,
I love it.
I was a 16-year-old boy one time, and I was sitting in a basement trying to figure out how to play guitar. And I was playing on a $100 Fender acoustic guitar, and I'm like getting calluses, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm like just endlessly trying to figure out. And look at me now.
Yeah.
Look at me now. And
You're right.
It's like I the desire is part of it. It's what drives you to stay focused, but it shouldn't be your goal.
Mm-hmm.
Your goal should be the appreciation of what you're doing in that moment and everything surrounding that moment, and then feeling blessed for all of the accomplishments that you have made.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because otherwise you're giving your spirit away.
Mm.
And you're not present. And it's weak. It's really weak, you know?
That's always been a problem of mine, is you're thinking about the next step while you're in this step.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just like, enjoy this step.
Enjoy the shit out of it. It's being given to you. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it's a good point of what you're talking about starting. I play guitar as well, and that's so many people's origin story, right? It's like you got the really affordable guitar,
right,
really affordable amp, and you learn things, and there's no cheat to get ahead.
There's no cheat.
It's just repetitive.
And what are you doing in that moment? You're in that moment.
True. But you know what? But you know why I was in that moment then is because then I didn't have a car, I didn't have a girlfriend, I didn't have social media, you know, this would have been...
But you had the desire.
Yeah, I know, but I think that's what maybe I don't do these days is go, we got to separate all that. Here we are on this thing right now.
But you don't got to. If it's a desire,
mm-hmm.
your spirit will automatically hyper-focus on that. It's how much you want it. And you... wanting something, and this is obviously just coming from me.
Sure.
I'm not anybody but me, so you take it with a grain of salt. But like, you can't and have no control. You have no control over your personal desire. It's a natural feeling. It's like falling in love with somebody. You're not choosing to fall in love with that person. It's not like, I'm choosing not to fall in love with you, or I am choosing to fall in love with you. Just like music, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like playing the guitar. You're just helpless to the process. You just are helpless to it because you need it and desire it, and it's just part of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not a choice.
Yeah.
It's just part of you.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. I like it. I think I'm always ready to skip that part.
Well,
you know what I mean? Which you shouldn't. Because I think it takes me a lot of hindsight to appreciate. Like if I didn't go through this, wouldn't be able to do that. Right? That the moment you're learning and doing it, there's so much that you're absorbing there that's going to make you better.
right.
But you know, when you're in the moment, you don't want to think about those challenges being these huge improvements, right? I'm getting there now. Now when something goes, you know, horribly wrong, for instance, now it just makes me laugh. Where I'm just like, well, we'll see where it goes. We'll see what this takes us to later, you know.
Sure.
Because, you know, go back to like you recording an album. It's like you're never going to get that studio perfect. Right. And then even the little things like the discussion about reverb and stuff. It's like now, if I were you in that situation, if it was 10 years ago, I would be arguing like, listen, this is what I want and this is what we're going to do. And I'm not going to budge on it. And now I think, you know, having more wisdom, I go like, well, all right, I guess we'll roll the dice. And then you end up having something better. You do. Maybe it's just setting the ego aside, you know?
Yeah, it's totally the ego.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, do you want a good record or do you want what you want, what you think you want? And, you know, I believe when people are put in the position to do what they're the best at, right?
Mm-hmm.
whether that's, something came to mind, but I'm not going to bring that up. But we'll just bring it to the recording the album. Like, sure, I could have recorded this album at my studio.
Mm-hmm.
Easy peasy. But haven't I been doing that for years? I wanted something different. And the only way to do that was to step outside of myself and to trust. And we all know that trust it can be complicated, but I put trust out there and it paid off, and it's like, I don't play the drums on the record, right? And Kevin plays the drums. Why? Because he's the best fucking drummer there is, in my opinion. He is just so talented. And just like Charles Marchbanks, who played bass on the album, he's actually a guitar player. But you put people in positions to do what they're good at, and you trust them to do it. Sure, you can be like, no, don't do that, or I prefer it when you do that, or I'm feeling this, right? It's like there's a sense of trust, just like recording the album with Casey, right? Casey was like, no, you shouldn't have all that reverb on your voice. And I'm like, and I feel it boiling, right? I'm just like, oh, I need that reverb on my voice. But I'm telling my inner dialogue is like, the whole reason you're here is because you decided that you were going to trust somebody because there's a bigger objective at play. And if you're just going to regurgitate the same thoughts and the same process, why are you here? And so just that mentality and that mindset allowed me to just breathe it out, let it be, and here we are. And, it's like hearing myself in a little bit of a different way, and it's beautiful, Mm-hmm. It's really beautiful.
Do you think if it had gone the other way, where, where you trusted, and then through the process, you're not feeling it, and then by the end of it, you're thinking, I still just don't like this. Do you think you would have put it out anyway, or do you think you would have gone somewhere else and redid it?
No, I wouldn't have put it out anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I don't put out anything that doesn't represent me.
Well, I was just seeing how far that trust went, where, because it's still like, again, that's another thing talking about resources, like the time, the money to go into a studio,
right?
And trust that person. And if you get through all through that trust process, and you're like, oh wow, I shouldn't have trusted that one,
right?
Now you just burned through all that time and money. But
well, I guess it's how you look at it.
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't work out that way. So that's
but if
great.
You got all the way through the process, and at the very end is the moment you're like, well, this doesn't. Then you're not being true to yourself during the process, which is what I was talking about, being in the moment you're in. Like, what you're saying would have never happened to me.
Right.
Because we wouldn't have gotten to 100% to completion without there being an issue early on.
Yeah.
And there was friction during the recording because Casey and myself were honest with one another the whole time. We were just honest going back and forth with what we like and what we don't like. Mm-hmm. And the way that things should be panned or something like that. It was just complete honesty back and forth. And it's like, all right, well, I'm willing to bend on this one, or I'm not willing to bend on this one, Mm-hmm. And, it's my music, but he was so steadfast on not oversaturating the reverb that, like, I believed in him because of how strong he felt about it, and I trusted it because I looked in his eyes and I believed him because I could see that he knew in his soul, and it was his belief and soul versus my comfortableness, and if that's even a word, and sometimes you got to be uncomfortable.
I'm glad y'all did that, man. I lean more towards his way. There are so many records, modern records I've listened to, where to me the two things that always take me out of a record real fast is a bunch of reverb and a bunch of slapback.
Yeah.
Those two things.
Yeah.
And because I always think, it's like, I know that singer's better than that.
Right.
I know I just missed things in there. And then, a lot of records, it's a lot of indie bands, and I think it's people who, they mean well, they want it to sound good, but it's like the guitar will get a little reverb, drums get a little reverb, the vocals get and the whole record now sounds just really washy and kind of goes for like that
that dreamy feel I think some people go for.
Right.
And then it ends up just being like, wow, I feel like I'm missing everything about you because, like you said, you'll go see them live and you're like, whoa,
Right.
that was incredible.
The cool thing about, so this was recorded at Valve Studios in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing about Valve Studios is that the people who did the acoustics for the room are the same people who did Capitol Studios.
Oh, wow.
Same people. I've met them while I was there. It was pretty cool. But all the reverb on the album, 95% of it is that room itself. It's not done in post-production.
Yeah.
It's all the natural sound of that room we performed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the local microphone company? They're a big brand, but it's Copperphone.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
have had that argument that you just described.
Yeah.
The little bit of my audio engineering background, these are the things that I like. I've started to realize, to me, rooms are important, and I
Yes.
get really frustrated with like the fix it in post, or we can manipulate that later.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but I bet with a little time and care, we can make it pretty great right now.
Right.
And so the thought of making like a studio room perfect, it's, that, or maybe not perfect, but something that you can manipulate to get sounds the way
Right.
you want it, right?
Right.
It doesn't need to be this monstrosity. It just needs to be the right room.
Right.
And I think that way about live venues, but it's like going back to that microphone. That is maybe the more subtle argument is like, yeah, could I in post-processing work with the EQ and make this sound like it's coming through a microphone like that? And it's like, yeah, you can do that.
You know who else can do that?
Uh-huh.
AI.
Yeah, well,
The only way to beat the AI is to be real.
Well, and there's a subtlety to that microphone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'll never hear it. Maybe I'm just dreaming it. But I feel like you feel it, and it's like, and I think maybe it comes. But I think maybe it comes down to like if you were the singer singing into that microphone, you have the headphones on,
Right.
Just like what you were saying. Even though the reverb didn't make it on the album, you liked having that reverb tail when you were recording the vocals
right.
for your performance.
Right.
To me, I feel like if you perform a vocal that's going to sound like it's coming through that copper phone later on, because you're going to do it in editing, you're singing a certain way. Right? Because you're hearing it just in high definition, just like we are right now, right?
Right.
Whereas if you're singing it, hearing it that exact way through that microphone right then, I think you're going to adjust that performance without even knowing it, and you're probably going to get a better take.
Right.
And it's like you see people take those microphones on the road with them and perform with them live, and, you can't tell me that this already established artist who somebody on the soundboard could tweak that and make it sound the same way using a Shure microphone.
Sure.
That they were just like, no, it doesn't really make a difference. Give me whatever. The fact that they decided, I want to take it on stage with me, there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
There's something to them that makes a difference.
Right.
And those studio rooms, all those things, it's the same. Like I have those conversations all the time about like, take a little time on that pre-side of things. Let's
Right.
make the live thing sound as good as you can.
Right.
And then, like I almost would love to start a studio. It would never happen, but I would love to start a studio where you specialize only in, the live takes, the live performance.
Sure.
And just spend, days tweaking it, getting it perfect.
And why can't you do that?
I just don't have funds. I don't have the money. I don't have funds. I have too much on my plate between trying to do all this. And I know that's exactly what we talked about earlier.
Correct. That's correct.
But genuinely, I would show you like my wife would probably leave me if I took on one more thing at this point.
Right.
It's what I would benefit from now is just creating more hours in the day. Sure. I would get the other job. There's literally not an hour to get another job.
Do you do
point.
this bi-weekly or weekly?
Weekly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you could do it bi-weekly and then pick that up.
I could.
Okay.
But I
There's the
like
but.
but I like doing this weekly.
More.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason to say you can't, because you can. You're choosing not to.
The only thing that might limit me here is noise.
Okay, well, you don't have to do it here.
Yeah. Well, I can't afford another space. Don't take me down this road right now. We're not going to do it.
All right.
We're like, babe, he's not going to convince me to do this right now.
Okay.
But I see what you're doing. I agree.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. There's some records that get close to doing that where they'll record everything live, but they still do some mixing on the back end.
Sure.
And eventually I will, but I would love it if there's already an engineer right now who has a similar passion that would do it. Just see like how good can you get the live thing now? Basically recording the way they used to in the probably 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
But not with just one microphone. Like, let's do real live performances the way they did then, try to capture all that feeling that those people get together when they're playing.
Right.
But with today's modern equipment, like,
Right.
how great can we make this just say there's no editing, there was no mixing in post. All we did was maybe master it so it can go on all these mediums.
Sure.
You know, I think it'd be fun, man.
Of course it would.
Because those rooms, you know, I'm sure you've played in spaces that just feel incredible and you don't know why.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, I'm playing one this coming Saturday.
What's that?
Growl Records, Division Brewing, album release party.
I keep hearing stuff about this place.
We, I've played all over the country, and I've played on big stages and tiny stages and everything in between those and houses. And this little record store, there's just, when you play in that record store, it is just second to none. I could have booked anywhere to play my release show, literally. Big stage, whatever. I just want to play this place because it's special to me. And I feel like the music is just... it's just a huge connection there, and the way that it sounds and vibrates off the floor and the ceiling and the walls. And have you been there?
No, I keep seeing some clips of stuff going on there.
Are you coming next week?
It's Saturday, you said?
Oh, now I'm looking at my schedule.
I gotta look at this, dude. I live and die by this calendar, man.
Well, yeah.
What time are you doing it?
Well, I think the show starts at 8 or 9-ish, and we go on probably around 10:30.
Okay, I'm going to put it in the calendar.
It's all ages.
Okay.
If you've got children. So.
Well, this will come out after you've already played it, so the show is probably phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, the show is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and no, it's in the calendar.
Nice.
Yeah, well, that's a great example then of like something about a room. Do they have a stage? Or are you playing on the floor? How do they do it on the floor?
I prefer it that way.
Interesting.
I don't like a stage.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. I like being on the floor. Yeah, I just love it.
Those are your punk rock roots coming back.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if they fill up that room, how many people do you think can fit in there?
I'm hoping the police get called.
Yeah?
Because I already know, with looking at the pre-sale numbers, that we're probably at capacity.
Well, we're not going to... This is after the fact now. So how many are your pre-sale at now? And what's the capacity there?
I don't know. I'm not a fire marshal.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you think? Like 50, 100?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe somewhere in there. Maybe somewhere in there, but the people can bleed out to the outside. I mean, yeah.
You've played Three Links by now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about their venue is the doors
open up.
Doors
and you're
open.
Out there, yeah.
And you can literally, like, maybe you don't have the money to get in. You didn't even come down there for that, but you hear a cool band and you're just like, what the hell's going on in there?
Sure.
Yeah, those are great venues where you can open something up and still get the full experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great place.
I've always wondered, like you said, it's a record store.
Yeah.
I've always wondered how many records get damaged at concerts like that.
Well, they
or
slide them over against the wall.
Oh, they pull them out of the way?
Yeah, it's a big open space in the middle, and they slide all the records against the wall.
I'm going to have to get out there, man. It sounds like a good spot. And it sounds like exactly what I think is, exactly what I'm worried about not happening is happening. I just don't know where it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like post-pandemic, these people are putting on shows. They are doing things.
Right.
It's probably just a recalibration of like, there's a new form happening. Go find it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exciting.
Got to go out there and look for it.
Do you think are you going to try to like travel tour? What are you going to try to do after you release it?
Well, we've got a few shows booked in San Antonio and Austin and everywhere in between. We're just touring Texas right now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel like doing with it, though?
I want to go to Japan.
Yeah, all right.
As I said earlier.
So now I'm going to turn it on you. Why haven't you gone to Japan yet?
It comes back down to one thing.
What's that?
I am so lazy at getting my passport. It's just that. It's the passport thing. It's like, what is wrong with me?
Come on, man.
Get this passport.
You said it all earlier.
Yeah, well, I'm not, but it's not something that I'm like, oh, I need to do it. It's something that I know is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not like, it's not like, oh, I'm disappointed in myself because I'm not doing this. I don't give a shit. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
How do you book up shows in Japan? How's that process work?
It'll happen. I'll let you know when it happens.
Okay, so you haven't I mean...
I haven't even looked or tried.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I have no idea either.
Yeah.
But, I would think if you could find a way to book some on-the-floor shows in Japan like you're talking about, like the versions you like, those small, intimate, That would be an incredible experience. 'Cause I don't know much about Japan, but what I do know is they fucking love music, man.
Oh, yeah.
And they love, like, going to shows and supporting and, like, I imagine that would be an incredible experience.
Oh, there's no doubt. It will be.
Oh, this is the next move then.
Yep.
This is what I'm going to hound you about. Now that I got your number, I'll just be like,
hound me all you want.
You work on that passport yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen, man, I wish you all the best. I've loved the music for a long time. The new EP is great. I mean, I think I hit you up after I gave it a full listen. Was just like, dude, this is really good. Like, not just the like, oh, it's a good album.
Yeah.
Yeah. The song right now is that's really sticking with me is "People Make a Place."
Oh, you like that one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to your kind of version of the way you've been talking about things, it's like I don't know if I like it or not, but it's the one I keep listening to.
Yeah.
You know, and
I wrote that during COVID. That's that I was really in a big depression. I completely lost myself, and I was heartbroken over all the venues closing and not being able to play shows, and I had moved up to Denver for a little bit, and I had never felt like more heartbroken and like I lost myself. And that whole song is just about the music scene and performing shows and just missing that.
I appreciate you sharing it. I don't like to ask people that question often. Because, you know, whatever that song means to people, you know, I leave it at that, right?
100%.
But I do appreciate you sharing that without asking because, you know, I always wonder what songs are about. But I'm always like, if they tell me, they tell me, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I feel that. Like I like to listen to stuff. We live near White Rock Lake.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like if I have my dog in the back seat, windows down, I'll just, you know, when you're going on the lake, you can only do like 15, 20 miles an hour.
Sure.
There's always cyclists there, you know, so it's just a spot where you're forced to slow down.
Yeah.
And I can get through a record, you know, and just make a lap or two around the lake, go get some gas or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's like that. That was one where it's like, all right, we're rocking. The record's rocking. We got these cool, you know, like I love, it's a ukulele on the second track, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the willingness to like create some dead space when we're rocking out.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
right. I do it a lot, yeah.
Perfect. And, but then that song really is like, put on the brakes, slow it down. You know, that's one of those, I'm cruising around and I've got the volume at a certain thing, but when that one comes on, you do the lean over, you turn the volume up a little higher.
Yeah.
Like, what do we got going on here?
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, you're like, well, let's listen to that again rather than just go through the whole thing. And,
sure.
And lately, over the last, I think it's only been out a couple days now at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple days. That's the one I keep kicking it to. I keep
that.
listening to Violent. I keep listening to People Make a Place. And then I'll kick it over to, what's the final track? Beautiful.
Someone Beautiful.
Someone Beautiful, yeah. Those three, whatever, that's just hitting me right now.
Yeah.
And then a month from now, it'll hit me a different way, you know?
Yeah,
and,
no doubt.
You know, so, but it's been fun. That's why, like, people are always very generous when they come on the show. They're like, can I send you, like, an advance thing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. And I never want it to feel rude.
Yeah.
But I like just getting it on a platform that I always listen to.
Yeah.
Where I can drive and switch the way I normally do on other albums.
No doubt.
Instead of, like, trying to go through a Dropbox or something. And
yeah.
It just takes that fluid, I've never been one to want to have like a record room, like a room full of vinyl where I sit and listen to a record.
Yeah.
For me, that place is the driving.
Yeah.
Right? Like get an excuse to I'm going to drive up to, I don't know, Louisville today.
Sure.
They got a dog park up there or something. That gives me an hour to burn through this record.
Yeah.
And then an hour on the way back. And so, yeah, that's why I always tell people, like, I'll just wait till it's out.
Right.
Let me get it when it's out. I'll listen to it with everybody else the way I listen to it. But, yeah. For some reason, those are the ones that are going strong.
I appreciate that, man.
But the whole thing, genuinely, it's great, man. I hope it does what you want it to do.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Sure.
How do you like people to find you? Instagram, all the social stuff?
Instagram, Henry the Archer, no spaces. I don't really keep my Facebook up to date. I mean, you know, every once in a while. And then henrythearcher.com for all the concert dates and tour information and tickets and whatnot.
It's got to be the only Henry the Archer out there, right? There can't. Hopefully,
it's the
there's
only
not multiple.
henrythearcher.com.
Okay, good.
Yeah, although
so just look Henry the Archer. There's enough stuff out there.
Although you got to put the "the" in there because I'm also a big Trekkie. Like I love Star Trek is it's really my heart, you know. And it has nothing to do with the name of the band, but it just so coincidentally happens that Henry Archer created Warp Drive.
Oh.
So you need the in there. If you put in Henry Archer, you're going to come up with Henry Archer from Star Trek. Henry the Archer.
Henry the Archer.
Yeah.
Look at the way these little worlds collide. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, best of luck out there, dude.
Thanks,
I appreciate
bro.
your time. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, man.
The the I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.